Hello, I'm Natasha Hussain, and this is Newsfeed, your dose of what people are talking about online. Butter chicken is not only one of India's most beloved dishes, it's a global favorite. So it's surprising to hear that the delicious curry is currently at the center of a contentious lawsuit. Two famous restaurant chains in New Delhi are battling in court over who invented the creamy tomato-based dish. The mouth-wateringly juicy lawsuit has social media abuzz with commentary and hot takes. Smita tells us more about the dispute simmering India's capital.
Ask any foreigner what they like about Delhi, and back comes the reply: yoga, Bollywood, and butter chicken. Well, butter chicken just got a lot juicier with a legal suit over its invention in a high court in Delhi. Two noted restaurants here, they are caught in a legal battle over patent rights of butter chicken. So what's the issue all about? Well, Moti Mahal restaurant right behind me has had President Nixon to Prime Minister Nehru among its famed guest list. Its owner, Kundan Lal Gujral, first opened it in unpartitioned Peshawar in the 1930s. Daryaganj claims that its owner Jaggi had actually partnered with Gujral when Moti Mahal had shifted and opened up in Delhi. So here's a fun fact. Now, most of the newsrooms as well as people out there on social media actually think that this Moti Mahal in Daryaganj is the one that is in court. That's not the case. It's an offshoot Moti Mahal Deluxe, which is a fourth generation who's actually taken Daryaganj to court.
We bought the Moti Mahal Daryaganj, the place, in 1992, and since then we've been the original birthplace of butter chicken and dal makhani, along with the dishes called tandoori chicken, bara kebab, and shahi paneer.
While the case will be next heard in court in May, the social media reactions have been lip-smacking. Lawyers have been having a field day, with many wishing that they could be appointed the court commissioner in this case. Well, many Twitterati are also mocking the courts for hearing a case which they think is frivolous, while lakhs of serious cases keep pending in trials. And one Twitterati in particular was very worried that his friends would sue him.
Stakes are clearly too high here. Come on, Kundan Lal Gujral ji, don't let me down. I've been peddling this place to friends for a very long time in the name of them being inventors of dal makhani and butter chicken. Butter chicken?
May the true inventor win, but as the legal battle continues, I'm simply going to dip into this yummy butter chicken gravy here, because for us, butter chicken is not food, it is really an emotion.
Well, that dispute certainly made me quite hungry. All right, our next story has a headline that's become more common in the last few years. Activists vandalizing artwork to draw attention to their cause. This time, the target was arguably the world's most famous painting, the Mona Lisa. Again, yup, this isn't the first time that the woman with the mysterious smile has been targeted by protesters. One of the environmental activists targeting the Mona Lisa was heard asking, what's more important, art or sustainable and healthy food? The painting wasn't damaged from the pumpkin soup attack since it's protected by bulletproof glass, but that didn't stop some from criticizing the stunt. Others, though, were more sympathetic, saying that the activists have good reason to resort to attention-grabbing tactics. A similar incident took place back in 2022 when a protester smeared cake on the Mona Lisa. If you're still trying to understand why environmental activists target art, hear it from those who did the exact same thing, as in throw soup at Van Gogh's Sunflowers in London back in November 2022.
To make one thing perfectly clear, we did no damage to the painting whatsoever. It was behind glass, and we never ever would have considered doing it if we didn't know that it was behind glass and that we wouldn't do any damage. I recognise that it looks like a slightly ridiculous action. I agree, it is ridiculous. But we're not asking the question, should everybody be throwing soup on paintings? What we're doing is getting the conversation going so we can ask the questions that matter. We're using these actions to get media attention because we need to get people talking about this now. And we know that civil resistance works. History has shown us that it works.
The Mona Lisa's latest enemies are from the French activist group Riposte Alimentaire, or in English, Food Response, who say they were trying to raise awareness about food security. The incident at the Louvre is in line with what's going on outside on France's streets, where farmers protesting for better standards have put pressure on the government. In a series of tweets, the activist group Food Response called out France for breaking climate commitments and called for a food social security system. The activists also called for a decent income for farmers. The latter has been using tractors to block roads and dump agricultural waste at government offices. Meanwhile, the French government has announced a series of measures that unfortunately have fallen short of the farmers' demands. Some farmers have threatened to escalate the situation and take their stinky demonstrations to Paris. Now, she's one of the biggest celebrities on the planet and one of the most searched for names on social media. But if you looked for Taylor Swift on X on Monday morning, this is what you'd see. Something went wrong, try reloading. That's because explicit AI-generated images of Taylor Swift started circulating on a number of social media sites. The photos were viewed tens of millions of times before being removed. It again highlights the damaging potential posed by artificial intelligence, especially when it targets women by creating seemingly believable but damaging images. While Swift is considering legal action, X released this press release on the platform. Posting non-consensual nudity images is strictly prohibited on X, and we have a zero-tolerance policy towards such content. It says its teams are actively removing all identified images and taking appropriate actions against the accounts responsible for posting them. X went on to say it's closely monitoring the situation to ensure that any further violations are immediately addressed and that the content is removed. It concluded by reassuring users that it's committed to maintaining a safe and respectful environment for all users. If you're one of the world's biggest global stars, of course you're going to attract unwanted attention, and a lot of people are going to want a piece of you. So it's hardly surprising countless AI images of Taylor Swift have been created. Most are respectful and even fun. Some generated images imagine Swift in a number of scenarios and even romantic settings with her ex-boyfriends. But the recent explicit AI-generated images of Swift presents a whole different ballgame. With the laws in most countries lagging way behind AI technology, governments are being asked, what are you going to do about it? That's a question the White House was asked to answer recently.
We are alarmed by the reports of the circulation of images that you just laid out, false images to be more exact, and it is alarming. So while social media companies make their own independent decisions about content management, we believe they have an important role to play in enforcing their own rules to prevent the spread of misinformation and non-consensual intimate imagery of real people. Sadly though, too often we know that lax enforcement disproportionately impacts women, and they also impact girls, sadly, who are the overwhelming targets of online harassment and also abuse. So the president is committed, as you know, to ensuring we reduce the risk of generative AI producing images like through his latest executive order that we announced just in the fall of last year. So this problem is not new, and it's one that the Biden-Harris administration has been prioritizing since day one. We have taken this very seriously. Again, this is alarming to us. As you know, he launched a task force to address online harassment and abuse, and he did that just this fall. The Department of Justice launched the first national 24/7 helpline for survivors of image-based sexual abuse. And so our commitment, and that we will continue to do and continue to take action and make sure that we continue to work on this. And again, this is very alarming, and so we're going to do what we can to deal with this issue.
You'd think the U.S. government would move much faster to pass legislation banning harmful AI-generated content, especially as the nation's leading politicians are also being targeted in this election year. including the president himself. With elections being held worldwide, false information is one of the major threats to free and fair polls. In its annual Global Risk Report, the World Economic Forum produced data of where false information is posing the biggest threat. This map shows a world ranking of where misinformation or disinformation is most likely. The US comes sixth, with India topping the list. Its elections are in April or May. The UK and Mexico, who also have elections this year, are rated joint 11th. Just a week ago, a political deepfake of US President Joe Biden alarmed experts. In a so-called phone message, a voice edited to sound like Biden urged voters in New Hampshire not to cast their ballots in last Tuesday's primary. Action has since been taken against the creator of the deepfake by their employer, AI startup 11 Labs. Not gonna lie, the deepfake robocall is pretty convincing.
What a bunch of malarkey. We know the value of voting Democratic when our votes count. It's important that you save your vote for the November election. We'll need your help in electing Democrats up and down the ticket. Voting this Tuesday only enables the Republicans in their quest to elect Donald Trump again. Your vote makes a difference in November, not this Tuesday. If you would like to be removed from future calls, please press 2 now.
That is uncanny. All right, it's a historical month in personal technology because 4 decades ago, Apple revolutionized personal computing with a bang. And part of that initial success was due to an iconic ad.
We are one people, with one will, one resolve, one cause. Our enemies shall talk themselves to death, and we will bury them with their own confusion. We shall prevail.
On January 24th, Apple Computer will introduce Macintosh. And you'll see why 1984 won't be like 1984.
40 years ago this month, Steve Jobs unveiled the very first Macintosh, and just like that, gone were the days of clunky computers that required manuals to operate them, and that didn't belong in the home. The first Macintosh was operated with a mouse instead of keyboard commands, the first computer of its kind. It cost around $2,500. The original Mac was shipped with instructions on how to use a mouse, something that sounds absurd today. The interface was menu-oriented, and you had to insert floppy disks to run programs like Mac Paint or Mac Write. The rest, of course, is history. The Macintosh took on various shapes and forms before turning into the sleek MacBooks of today. But in the end, it lost its leading role at Apple Computer. Mac computers held over 85% of the sales revenue of the company at the start of the century. And then iPods, iPhones, and Apple Watches came along. Today, Macs account to just 7.7% of Apple's revenue. This doesn't mean that Mac computers are no longer relevant. In fact, you can even argue the core of Apple is more important than ever before, as the company wants to break through into a new era of what they call spatial computing. Well, happy birthday, Mac. Welcome to your midlife crisis. As I mentioned earlier, Apple is on the verge of breaking into new territory with its new headset, Apple Vision Pro, but it looks like the launch isn't going smoothly at all. Pre-orders are being delayed, and major apps are snubbing the headset altogether. Notably, streaming giant Netflix co-CEO Greg Peters recently said the device is not worth the effort just yet. Ouch.
If we look at the history of the first generation of Apple products, it does not bode well for the first Vision Pro. Like the first generation iPhone, definitely revolutionary, an amazing device, but it lacked a lot of things. The first generation iPad, again, a really cool device, but man, this thing lost support so quickly, and the iPad 2 was such a huge upgrade over this. Painfully slow. And the first gen Vision Pro is already shipping with an old M2 chip, and literally has an external battery hanging off it with only like 2 hours of battery life. I'm just saying the second version of this thing is probably gonna be a lot better.
And we finish on a sad downgrading story. Big Bird, the beloved Muppet character on the TV show Sesame Street, has been shrunk. According to a post on X last week, the 2-meter-plus bird has morphed to the size of an insect.
Snuffy! Snuffy, I'm right here! Where are you, bird? I wanna play! He still can't
The I am too tall to be short character stunned social media with his diminutive form. Some took the day off. One claims to have set up a GoFundMe page. And a religious type says though Big Bird may now be small, God still sees him. The producers have not explained the stunt, but the Yellow Bird says he's considering seeking help from grown-ups in government or college. Yes, a very serious issue indeed. And that's our show. Find our latest stuff on YouTube and do subscribe to our channel. See you soon.